All right, next up, I want to show how to create custom graphics and slides. I'm going to pick on the sermon for a moment. And let's say that we want a new slide and a real funky graphic or something like that. There's a few different ways to do that depending on what you need. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add a new blank slide into this sermon document with this little button down here. I'm going to hit plus and go to blank, and then add the new blank template in. And so that gives me this here blank slide. I'm going to right click on that and hit edit. Now we're in the editor view. Now any editor view, whether it's the normal edit view or the stage editor view or the theme editor view, all of these have more or less the same options. I just want to go over those with you here. Careful, when you go into the edit view, it does put you at the first slide sometimes. So you want to go down to whatever slide you've actually got. And let's go through the different elements of the new editor. First, the plus symbol in the top left is the place where you'll find the ability to add different kinds of pieces to this slide. So text is obviously a very simple text box. You can grab that, you can resize that, you can go in and put placeholder text. If you wanted to, you could set a font size, all of that in there, and that is now just a text box. So that'll just appear like text, much like a song will. But there's a whole lot of stuff that this can do in addition to that. So I want to show you. So shape, let's do rectangle with that. Now let's say we wanted to have a little like call out for something. Maybe it's lined up like this, and then we put the placeholder text. Oh, it's behind it. So how do we adjust that? We just right click on it and send to back, which then you'll notice over here on the objects layer, this is kind of like Photoshop over here where we've got layers and we can choose what things are above and below. We can also name things if we want to. So let's take this text box and line it up here. I love the new grid snapping features. So you can just place this smack dab right in the center. This text itself could be top justified, middle, bottom, right, left, spans out, whatever. But for today, let's just have it in the center here. We can also scale the text to fit the container, or fit the container to the text, or we can scale the text to fit the container. Because I selected that other one, it screwed it up for me. So the more text we have in here, more words, it's going to shrink down, shrinks the text size. Now obviously that will span off of there, so that only works so far. But in this case, no text scaling. I'm going to just remove some of this stuff. So now we've got a nice little blue thing coming out here with text. We could go in and I can select any of the layers on the left here and adjust their parameters. So I could go into shapes and I could say I want to fill it with a gradient. And so that gives me two different colors of blue. So now I've got that coming here. And then I've got, let's say I wanted to add some interesting line relief here. So this is something we've been doing recently that might be like this. So now I've got this text box and I've got this document, but I can actually put a stroke on this text box that's maybe white or something like that. And then the tricky thing is figuring out how to make it look equidistant around the whole thing. I just usually do that by trial and error. You could certainly measure it with the pixel measurer, but and see what pixels are what. But now we can see this is here. If I go back to show mode and click that, I can see exactly in this little window right here, if I span this out here, I can see what that actually looks like and I can tweak it. I do suggest doing most of these edits inside of the building on the computer so you can actually see it on the multi-display. Because sometimes things will look better on here than they do in person. For instance, this little line right here, I'm going to shrink this over to get it close to this gap right here. And that will give me this. And then let's do Kaleo Phoenix. Let's just say for some reason we wanted to have a little splash screen on there. We put that up there, and let's say for some reason he wanted to have that throughout the entire sermon. I might be like, oh, that's kind of big. Let's go in there and edit that down. Let's take this text. Let's shrink that down to like size 30. And let's make this box make just a little bit more sense. We could take that. We do want to be conscientious of TV safe, which means some of this is going to be cropped off on some TVs, depending on how they're streaming it, things like that. Let's make this a little bit smaller even. And the one thing we want to do for right now is avoid the color black or things close to black in these in gradients and things like that. Eventually we'll be able to do that, but that feature is not quite available to us yet. So now we've got that down there and we've made our own little graphic. That is essentially how, so if I delete that and apply a theme, so let's pull up Wisdom Scripture. So that's essentially how I've built this. This box right here is a text box with an outline. This box right here is a simple rectangle with rounded corners. I adjusted the corners to be a little less obtrusively round. And then I did a gradient. I did the same thing up here. This box is actually just a rectangle with rounded corners. And then I just lowered it down so that we get this cool little detail right here. And then a text box that is not black but gray. It is actually, if I remember right, I believe it's nickel or tin. I can't remember, but it's pretty light gray. For the interest of aligning things with different series graphics and stuff, sometimes what I'll do is I will actually pull up the series graphic that we might have. In the interest of this specific series, I've already created this, but I want to show you how I did it. So for this text box right here, or for this box, not text box, I wanted to add some colors, and so what I did is I just grabbed the Apple's eyedropper here, and found, okay, I want a dark color, I want a light color, I want a light yellow, a dark yellow, a teal, and each one of those that I grabbed this little color swatch and put it over on the side here, so that I could have a whole bunch of colors from this sermon series based off of what Logan already did. So he did the hard work of making it look good. I'm just stealing from the best and making up the rest. So that is how I developed these different colors that are here. So for instance, this rectangle box that's right here, I went in and I had already saved kind of a dark yellow and a bright yellow, so I just put those in there. I made them a gradient on the shape and called it good. For right now, again, we're staying away from black. We're staying away from things that are opaque. So if I scrolled that down to somewhat see-through, that would not translate well on our video system. So we want to make sure that they're fully opaque, 100% on that. Strokes, shadows, because they deal with black, are a little difficult. Feathering, you may find that helpful, you may not, but it basically just blurs this edge. I personally think a sharp, crisp edge is going to work better and look better for the most part. And then, interestingly enough, there are things called visibility. So you can choose when these things are visible and when they're not. Personally, those are never going to be applicable to normal slides, but you can say, hey, when a timer is running, or when a slide object is triggered, or when a video countdown is running, make it visible. So for instance, this is actually something that I've been meaning to do for a few days. If I go into a song and hit the first slide of that song, the stage display is showing the time, but then also zeros, because whenever a video is playing, we want the video timer to be there just in case the stage display view doesn't change. But we can go into the stage editor for the worship slide stage display and put a visibility cue. So all of the following conditions are met. We want video countdown is playing, has time remaining, has finished, is not playing, is looping, is not looping. Let's just say is playing. So now it's not visible. So before we saw the little zeros up here, and now we don't. But let's just say that accidentally didn't put the cues to change that on this video. When I click that, the video is playing, but the timer then appears. As soon as I stop the video from playing, that timer goes away. So that's how visibility works, and that's a really cool feature. Another cool feature in the editor window that I'll demonstrate with the stage display is the ability to fill certain things. So when we go to a video stage display, this box becomes filled with the main output. So just like any other box like I made before, I could fill this with a gradient color or a solid color or media or whatever, but I can also do interesting things with screen preview. So I could do the current slide image, the next slide image, which both of those are static. I could do screen preview of any of the outputs. I could do a slide object or Core Charter ProPresenter Live, which we're not using those basically. We are using ProPresenter Live, but for some reason it's not working. But screen preview is how we generate this left box. The right box is next slide image. So instead of screen preview, it's the next slide image. So it's just a still of whatever that is. Stage message, that's added up here. So I could say, you know, hey, how are you, whatever. And it would appear in that little box. Video countdown, this one's visibility is just set to always be on, and that's totally fine because it's the video, so it just shows us where that countdown's going to be. I just wanted to make the visibility of the worship one, so when there is no video playing, this just disappears and doesn't confuse anyone. The next thing we'll run into sometimes is lower thirds, and I want to demonstrate how poorly this can go sometimes. So we've got a lower thirds graphic folder, and let's say we wanted to talk about the Connect card this week. If I drag and drop this graphic on here, it'll be like, oh my gosh, why does that look horrible? Well, the plot thickens because if we actually look at what that looks like, it doesn't look anything like that. It looks like the lower third is just in the middle. So anytime we add a lower third, we're going to want to, let's go ahead and just delete that slide. We're going to want to create a new blank slide, edit it, and then go to Finder and drag our graphic onto here. So when we got that, we've got these nice little guides that line us all up and plop it on there. I don't know why this looks so poor right now, but the screen resolution is weirdly bad on the graphic here. But when I go back to the main screen, now I can see it looks right. And when I click on that, the output looks nice and crisp. I'm seeing it on the monitors here. It looks fantastic. So I can click any of these slides and they'll go back and forth between them. I can click the slides with the little X, which has a clear all action. So that's in there. And that's how I create a lower thirds graphic, is I actually put the graphic onto the slide versus just dragging it in with the way that Logan's creating them right now. Videos, of course, you just drag them and drop them in there and they're good to go. One thing that does sometimes happen with videos is sometimes we need to adjust them. Sometimes they look wrong, sometimes they're format weird if they're from something we got from someone other than Logan. And that is Inspector. We can go in and manipulate the video file itself. So there's a bunch of stuff we can do. It used to be properties, I think is what it used to be called. But now they're calling it Inspector. So we can go in here, we can preview the video, we can set in and out points. Like let's say we wanted to cut off that thing about tickets and we just wanted to have it there, we could hit out. And when that video just hits that point, it'll stop instead of showing the rest of this, or we could adjust it back, of course. We can reset in and out points to be exactly what the video normally is. We can set the current frame of what it shows in ProPresenter. So I can set current frame, and that way when you see the video, it shows Peggy's face instead of that other thing. So again, all of that is in Inspector. Properties, different scaling options depending on the video. Sometimes we need to stretch it to fill the slide. to fix the pixel ratio. Sometimes that gets screwed up. We can change the alignment of where that video is. We can flip it. We can crop it. One of the important ones that if we're having a video playback issue, we're going to check playback behavior. We're going to want to make sure that that's on stop instead of loop. You can also change the end behavior, which is cool. If the video didn't end with black, but you want it to, you can do black after last frame, or fade to black, or fade to clear, or something like that. And you can set those play rates there. Effects, you can also do live effects. We have really no reason to do that, but you can put any of these effects on a video if we wanted to. And then audio, we've got the ability to fade in to fade out. Channel routing, which we're not going to use right now. It's just left and right, go to left and right. But we could run more than one set of channels from ProPresenter if we wanted to. But for the most part, this is all set. We could also adjust the output volume. So if we wanted to boost or subtract volume from the video, we could do that inside of ProPresenter instead of having to adjust that somewhere else. But that's the basic overview of those videos. And of course, if we ever want to delete it, we just command click and hit delete. All right, that is an in-depth look at graphics and editing, kind of more advanced graphics inside of ProPresenter 7 and how we're doing that here at Journey. If you've got any questions, feel free to pop those in the comment. I'm happy to answer those or show more things. Certainly as we add and adapt new features and things like that into ProPresenter, I'll be posting incremental videos to kind of go through more in-depth what ProPresenter is doing and how we're using it. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks.